I had made a determination before we got involved there. I was going to be on no more public boards. I'd been on 19 of them, and it takes a lot of time. And they asked me if I'd go on for a while, and I did. But it really is like 7.5 days or something. And if you're on a bank board, it may be quite a bit more than that. I mean, they're just being on a public board usually means quarterly meetings plus maybe an extra one. And you know, at 87, I think I've now learned what happens, and it's fine. But I don't want to spend 7.5 days a year when I can call up people that I trust and admire who are on the board, and in 5 minutes, we find out what's going on or whatever it may be, any questions that come up. And so we are their partners and delighted to be their partners. And now we have 2 people on the board of Kraft Heinz, and they can do the traveling and I can stay home. Charlie, how many public, you're on Costco, of course, but over your lifetime, how many public boards?
Well, Costco, except for something like the
Pound?
Daily Journal where I own part of it, Costco is the only public board.
You were on Kansas
There wasn't
Power.
Berkshire or something I own personally.
Yeah.
I was on Kansas City Power and Light. Boy, that goes way back. But basically, it hasn't happened. I don't envy people who float around to a lot of different board meetings.
No, generally speaking, you have very little influence and spend a lot of time. And the trouble is, if you're going to a board meeting, particularly if you get to be international, and sometimes they feel they have to have one that's international, they feel they have to take up a fair amount of your time, or it wouldn't have been worth coming, thousands of miles for. So you get a lot of this show and tell stuff, and that I find my mind drifting. Okay. We will not make hostile tenders ourselves. I do not believe that there's anything fundamentally wrong with the idea. I mean, if you take the Fortune 500 companies, I'm sure that all 500 are not managed by the best, or in some cases even the friendliest to investor and managements in the world. So I don't think it's evil or anything to conduct a hostile offer for a company. It's just we won't do it, and we don't want to get into that. We like being liked by the managements that we join because we're counting on them to run the company, and we're not bringing in a whole bunch of people that know how to change businesses. We seldom take a position opposite to management, very seldom, on anything involving a proxy contest of sorts. But we don't rule it out. We don't think every management is entitled to be, that they don't have a lifetime hold on their business. But it's not our style at all well, we won't do it in terms of initiating it ourselves, and we'd be very, very, very unlikely to support the contest. But we have voted against a couple of propositions over 50 years that managements have had made in relation to stock options. We withheld a vote at Coca-Cola a few years ago to express our opinion. But we don't think it's evil for the shareholders, in some cases, to have different opinions about who should run the company or whether compensation is appropriate or matters of that sort. The stockholders still own the company. Charlie?
I've got nothing to add to that. And I don't envy these people that are in these unfriendly uproars all the time. Imagine doing that after you were already rich. It's insane.
Yeah, we are definitely not looking for it. But there are certainly companies that deserve challenge. I mean, and they propose things that deserve challenge occasionally. But again, it's not it's not our main activity. Well, with American Express, it was an interesting situation because Diners Club got there first. I think American Express, in a certain sense, I mean, they did it for a lot of reasons, but they went into the credit card business because they were worried about what was going to happen to traveler's checks. And although traveler's checks are still exist in a significant way, but the interesting thing when American Express went into competition with Diners Club and with Carte Blanche, as I remember, that was also existed at the time, was that instead of charging less than Diners Club and going in figuring they were going against an established guy and they'd come in at a lower price, they went in at a higher price, as I remember. And the American Express Centurion was on that card. I've got one that I got in 1964, but they were in it before that. It had more value in time. I mean, it got better representation. And frankly, if you were a salesperson out with somebody and you could pull out that American Express card with that Centurion, you look like it were J.P. Morgan. And if you pull out the Diners Club, it had a whole bunch of flashy signals. You look like a guy that was kiting his checks from one month to the next. And a fellow named Ralph Schneider and Al Bloomingdale developed the Diners Club, and they were very smart about getting there first, but they weren't smart about how they merchandised it subsequently. RC Cola, you know, it did. There are all kinds of colas that came after Coke. I mean, you know, you go back to 1886 and come up with something at Jacob's Pharmacy that's incredibly successful. You know, fairly soon you're going to get lots of imitators, but Coke really is the real thing. And you know, you offer me RC Cola and say I'll give it to you at half the price of Coca-Cola in terms of drinking it. I mean, this is a product that's 6.5 ounces, sold for a nickel in 1900. You know, and now if you buy it on the weekend and buy it in large quantities and everything, you're not paying that much more. This newspaper was 3 cents in 1942. You know, the amount of enjoyment per real, in terms of the real of what you pay for this, has gone dramatically down in inflation-adjusted money. So it is a bargain product. You know, you have to look at See's Candy. You know, if you live in California and you were a teenage boy and you went to your girlfriend's house and you gave the box of candy to her or her mother or father and she kissed you, you know, you lose price sensitivity at that point. That's so we really want products where people feel like kissing you, you know, rather than slapping you. It's an interesting thing. I mean, you know, in effect, we're betting on the ecosystem of Apple products, but led by the iPhone, and I see characteristics in that make me think that it's extraordinary. But I may be wrong. And you know, so far, I would say we've been right on American Express and Coca-Cola. American Express had this huge salad oil scandal in 1960, happened in 63, November, right around the time Kennedy was shot. And there was really worry about what the company would survive, but nobody quit using the card. Nobody quit using the traveler's checks. And they charged a premium price for their traveler's checks. So there are things you can see around consumer products that sometimes can give you a pretty good insight into the future, and then sometimes we make mistakes. Charlie?
I got nothing to add, except that if we'd been offered a chance to go into Coca-Cola right after it was invented, we probably would have said no.
We'd have turned to them. Yeah.
It would have looked kind of silly to us.
Well, unless we drank it now, Charlie, listen. No, he's right. I mean, we don't foresee things that we haven't got a lot of evidence in on. I mean,
No.
we want to see a lot of, if we're talking about a consumer product, we want to see how a consumer product behaves under a lot of different circumstances. And then we want to use something. Actually, there was a book by Phil Fisher written around 1960 called Common Stocks and Uncommon Profits. It's one of the great books on investing. And it talks about the scuttlebutt method of investing, which was quite a ways from what Ben Graham taught me in terms of figures. But it's a very, very good book. And you can learn a lot, just by going out and using some shoe leather. Now they call them channel checks now or something like that, but it's you can get a feel for some products, and then there are others you can't, and then sometimes you're wrong, but it is a good technique. It's an important investing technique, I would say that, and Ted and Todd do a lot of that, and they have some people that help them out on doing it too. Charlie's done it with Costco. I mean, he is. I mean, all the time he is finding new virtues in Costco. And he's right, incidentally. I mean, Costco has an enormous appeal to its constituency. They surprise and delight their customers, and there is nothing like that in business. You have delighted customers, you're a long way home.